Hi, this is Eitan Shalom at the Body Mind Wellness Center, and I want to talk to you today about the Neti Pot. The Neti Pot is a method that comes from India. I wouldn't even say it comes from Ayurveda specifically. I'd say more accurately, it comes from yoga. And so lots of people in India that don't particularly practice yoga use the neti pot because yoga is part and particle of Indian culture to a degree. And so there's lots of things from yoga that permeate Indian culture. So the neti pot is a really valuable way for cleaning out your nasal passages. It's really useful to do as preventative medicine, as a way to clean your body during dry weather especially. If you have during dry weather, and I'll tell you why in a moment, if you have allergies during allergy season, and as a preventative method, even when it's not dry weather, periodically to clean the dead skin cells and dust and industrial pollutants and agricultural pollutants that get trapped in our sinuses and can be an aggravating factor for allergies. If, for example, you're allergic to cats and you love your neighbor's cat and you go and play with the cat and then you come home and your eyes are itchy, and you get a little bit of allergic response in your sinuses, wash your hands if you've been handling the cat and use the neti pot. So again, ear, nose, and throat doctors are all recommending the neti pot now, otolaryngologists, because we now know from science what the yogis always knew, that just like we brush our teeth and rinse our mouth after we're eating, just like we wash our face and clean the crust out of our eyes, the just as we clean ourselves after using the bathroom, just as we bathe our body, the Indians were really, really thorough about that and also bathed their nasal passages. They're also very big on applying oil to the skin as well. That's a different story. So again, the purpose of using the neti pot is that it clears pollutants, dust, dead skin cells, and allergens out of the nasal passages. And it also, this is the key point I wanted to make, is it helps rehydrate the nasal passages in dry weather. And we have a microbiome in the nasal passages. And when our nasal passages are hydrated, they act as a much more effective barrier also against the viruses that cause the common cold and flu and I imagine even COVID. It's, obviously COVID, you want to wear a mask unless you're an anti-masker. Let's not get into that. But COVID enters the body through the nose, not through the hands, by the way. So you're not doing yourself any favors against COVID if you use toxic hand sanitizers. I say toxic, the ones with perfume. But that's not a bad thing to do in cold and flu season, at a minimum when you come home, wash your hands. That's what I do. I only use that hand sanitizer if I was someplace where I was touching things where there was a lot of contact, with other human beings, like the supermarket. But I'm neurotic. I wear gloves when I go into the supermarket because I have them from my clinic, because I wear gloves when I put the needles in. Okay, so we're clear about that. The neti pot rehydrates your nasal passages to protect your body from viruses and also pollen and allergens as well. And at the same time, it flushes out the accumulated dead skin cells and pollens and all that. And so it's very useful for people with seasonal allergies, especially like for me, I'm allergic to the ragweed pollen that we get in the end of August and September in San Diego. So I always use it that time of year because there's a double whammy. Number one, the air is really dry. And number two, there's the pollen and dust in the air. San Diego is a rather dusty place, and I don't live that far from the airport. So I know that I'm inhaling a lot of dust because I know I have to clean the dust off the tables once a week, and that's how quickly it accumulates. So I like to use the neti pot frequently. There's one alternative to the neti pot, which is like a spray, like Arm & Hammer makes a very good spray with saline and baking soda. There's also Ocean, but it doesn't work as well. I will use it when I'm lazy, or I'll use it when I travel, but it doesn't supply the same quantity of water and the same intensity of water. So I don't find it, I find that the Arm & Hammer spray, it's nicely hydrates, but it doesn't cleanse as well. You'll notice this is a porcelain pot. I don't recommend using plastic unless you want to absorb more microplastic into your body than you already are. That's number one. And number two, I want to talk about this particular neti pot. I'm not marketing this brand, but I will tell you the name is NeilMed, like the man's name Neil. And I do have a link to this on my, I have a post on my website, bodymindwellnesscenter.com. I'll put the link down below this video, and there's a link to where you can buy this, just so you have the information. Again, I don't get paid a penny from them. I'm not marketing it, but the reason why I like it is it's the correct shape. Now, what do I mean it's the correct shape? I bought one years ago at Whole Foods, and it didn't really work very well. And the reason why it was not the correct shape, I'll just tell you why this is the correct shape. Do you notice how it's really fat at the base? And also it's a big handle so you can really tip it. And then this nozzle, the teapot nozzle, is wider at the base and then narrower. And then this part really fits snugly against your nostrils so it doesn't leak. And so I found that with this particular model, that when I pour it, I get a really strong flow of water, and that works much better. So use a porcelain one, don't use plastic, and get one with the right shape. It could be that even a small teapot would be the right shape for you. Okay, and then how do you use it? So first of all, you want to use salt to the right ratio. So I use about 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of salt in this particular pot. And this company, another thing that's nice is that they sell prepackaged salt, so it's the exact right amount, and it has a little bit of baking soda in it as well. And so the good thing about the baking soda is that it helps to preserve the right acid-base balance. If you just use salt by itself, I think it's a little harsher. It might be that the baking soda in here has a little bit of an increased cleansing effect. I'm not sure. The Arm & Hammer spray also has a little baking soda. So one of these packets goes in one of these. And another key point, use water that is a little bit warm. Room temperature water is quite cold compared to your own body temperature, right? So you want it to be about your body temperature so that when it goes into your body, if it's too cold, that can actually trigger an allergic response in some people. And obviously if it's too hot, it'll burn you. So what I do, and you want to use, just to play extra safe, you want to use water that's been previously boiled or filtered or distilled. There was a case in Louisiana where they were using really dirty water and they got a nasal infection. Obviously, you don't want to do that. So what I do is I have a filtered water, and then I have a electric tea kettle, and then I'll put a little bit of water right off the boil in there and mix it so I can make it be the right temperature. And then I just pour a little out and dip my finger in it, like the baby's milk, for the baby bottle in the movies. And so use clean water, distilled water, filtered water. Use the right amount of salt, so it's not too salty, but it's not salty enough. If you just use regular water without salt, it'll be irritating. And so you want the water to be warm enough. You want the water to be clean, distilled water, sterile water, boiled water, and you want to use the correct amount of salt. So now you have poured the water in here and you filled it up. The next thing is that what you want to do is turn your head as horizontal as you can make it. Am I still on the camera? As horizontal as you can make it. And then you tip your head over the sink. you tip the head, your head, you tip your head over the sink, and then the water is just going to pour out of this, and it's going to go through your nostril up into the septum and out the other nostril, which is what you want. And so that's a really nice amount of water compared to just spraying. You see what I'm saying? And then you turn your head the other way, and so then you have to fill another one up, and then you do it on the other side. So try to get your head as horizontal to the sink as possible. And that's a key point. You don't want the water going up into your sinuses. You're cleansing your nasal passages in the septum. So if you get your head parallel to the floor as horizontal as you can, then the water is going to drain right out quickly. Next key point, don't blow your nose right away. After you do this, there's going to be water, and you take a handkerchief, a clean handkerchief, and just dry the water out. If you want, it's okay to pull some of the water back, like when people, I don't want to make this disgusting sound, but when you go like that, and it'll come out the back of your throat. And after about 5 minutes have passed and the water's really drained, then if you want, you can blow your nose very gently, just like, pardon me, just like that, not harder than that. The reason why is if you blow too hard, there's a possibility that you'll send debris from the upper part of your nasal passages into the eustachian tubes, and you don't want that. And for the very same reason, in general, I learned this in yoga years ago. In general, yogis are very careful that when you do blow your nose, blow one side of the nostril at a time. I noticed as growing up as a kid, I would see older men blowing their nose like that, but I would see younger people blow both nostrils at the same time. If you blow both nostrils at once, it can easily send, it has to do with the pressure, the air pressure in the eustachian tube and the sinuses and the nasal passages. If you blow both nostrils at once, you're sending the air pressure back. If you blow one at a time, then it's a lower level of air pressure going backwards. You with me? Okay, so if you don't have allergies, and it's not a time of year where the air is dry, in the winter, obviously, if you're using heat, the air is quite dry, then it's still a good idea to do the neti pot periodically, because most of us live in polluted air. That's the reality of it. And air inside houses is also polluted. But, depending where you live, like I said, this is a very dusty place. If you live in a city, there's lots of dust. Outside of allergy seasons and dry weather, I use it about once a week, twice a week. Sometimes less. Sometimes if it's outside the dry season or allergy season, I just use the spray to hydrate. So again, you're doing three things with this. You're cleaning two things. You're cleaning the nasal passages and you're rehydrating. But during dry weather, in my home during when I have the heat on, I do have a humidifier to try to keep the air from getting too dried out. But that's not always the case. I don't have a humidifier in my treatment room, so when I'm working, and maybe I should get one. That room can be a bit dry. So during the dry weather and during the allergy season, especially in San Diego, the Santa Anas, which is in the fall and late summer, I'll do it more often. I don't get allergies in the spring, thank God. So in the spring, I don't have to do it that often. I treat allergies with a combination of acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine. That's the core of my treatment. But if I'm treating your allergies, I always recommend that you use the neti pot, especially in the beginning of treatment as we're really getting going. Okay, well, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.